And we hit it off because of an NWO shirt. Because right away, when you move into a new town, I moved a couple times as a kid. The first thing you look for are people who have common interests. And I felt when I moved, I could reinvent myself. My mom got me all these new clothes. I was like, that's what the cool kids are going to wear, so I'm going to wear that. But still, the authentic, real thing was, are there any other wrestling fans around that I could hit it off with? At the time, I was definitely a cool kid because I had two things: wrestling and Magic the Gathering. So I was ready to be the most popular kid to reinvent myself in the school. And I found my friend Zach. Shout out to Zach. Through another mutual friend, I was like, yes, Zach, he went to a Magic tournament in Edison, New Jersey with me, so I'll be friends with him. We decided in math class. And then in art class, I saw this gentleman wearing an NWO shirt.
First one in Manalapan High School to wear an NWO shirt.
And it was well weathered at that point. It couldn't have been more than a few months old, and it had clearly been worn many times. You can't see his face right now, but it's the classic Eric look for all the round table fans. It's an icy gaze. But I think I just walked up to you and you didn't look too excited to make a new friend wearing a Tommy Hilfiger shirt and Boss jeans.
I didn't have many back then.
You didn't have many.
Still don't.
I was going to talk to this guy and make a friend. I must have just said NWO to you. Like that's hello, because I recognized the letters, and he probably thought, what a fool. And Eric actually... he hated WCW. The NWO wasn't an angle to him. It was a calling card. He was behind the mission. And so I thought, I was more of a smart fan than Eric at that time. I'm just saying. I've since taught him well, and he's exceeded my knowledge, and he's the professor now. Not Mike Tenay, it's Eric. But I did school him at the time, and I enlightened him to understand that the NWO is actually part of the actual WCW, and since you like them, you therefore like the company that it exists. So that's how we hit it off, and the rest is history.
Well, that influence was from your godfather, right, Uncle Howie?
Yeah, my family's originally from Brooklyn. Coney Island, if you ask my dad, very specific. You have to make that distinction. And I have a godfather. We call him Uncle Howie. And he read The Observer and was telling me about it when I was a kid. And so I was smartened up when I was really young. And wait, why did we make that point? Why am I saying that?
Because I remember... you let me borrow the best of Jushin Liger in Japan, obviously, the best of Ultimo Dragon.
We're OG smart fans.
Well, that was from Uncle Howie, wasn't it?
I think so, yeah. He used to, allegedly, he used to get the DVDs, oh my God, tapes, VHS tapes for the children out there. Liger, Ultimo Dragon.
That blew my mind when I saw that the first time.
I mean, and you got to understand, at this time, it's 97, we had AOL, but there was no Japan. You couldn't watch wrestling on the internet at the time. There was WWE.com.
But even if there were, that was more for older people. We were just getting exposed to AOL at the time. We didn't know.
I can't remember what was on either the Liger or the Dragon tapes, but this stuff was, to us, it was like another universe. And so from that day on, we were more sarcastic about it than we'd ever, and more jaded than we could. We got that very early on in life.
Well, how'd you get into wrestling in the first place?
My earliest memory, which is I can corroborate this memory with a photo, is of a Hulk Hogan poster in my room in Staten Island as a 4-year-old child with Hulk Hogan pajamas and the old Hulk Hogan rubber action figure from what were those?
LJN?
LJN or whatever it was. Yeah, the Iron Sheik one that everyone had, where I bit the Iron Sheik's little boot off, and I had Jimmy Hart. I had
you had the Road Warriors AWA.
Well,
figures?
Whoa, hold on. We got to do the LJN first.
All right.
The other thing we had in my room was my dad had I guess bought some Apter mags and cut out some of the one-page photos, and we had the Road Warriors, Sergeant Slaughter, and then he got these, I guess they were fake autograph pictures. I don't even know where he got them, but they had these WWF glossy photographs with they were signed, and who knows, maybe maybe at the time they were real. Maybe Coco Beware was sitting there signing every one of these 8x10s or whatever. And I had a bunch of them. I had them in a binder. I had Slaughter, I had Macho Man and Elizabeth, old school with the pink tights with the stars. We're talking 86 here for all you kids. I had a ton of Hogan stuff. I was indoctrinated at a very young age with that. Tito Santana, I had a Tito Santana picture. So I had all this stuff, and I was a kid in New York in the 80s, and it was He-Man, it was the Mets, and it was wrestling. Those were the three things. And music, which we'll talk about. That was the nighttime thing with its little black and white TV in my room. I had a good diet of 80s music videos, which I guess we'll talk about that later. But my earliest memories of watching it are really my taping Saturday Night's Main Event in like 86. Everything that happens in your world in general is like the definitive version of that thing. So at the time, the main event of the first Saturday Night's Main Event tape I had was Hulk Hogan and Andre versus King Kong Bundy and Big John Studd. And to me, that meant that these were the four biggest stars in the world. And I guess kind of at that time, it was probably between WrestleMania 1 and 2 that they did that angle on Saturday Night's Main Event.
I thought Hulk Hogan had to be the strongest human being in the world because he body slammed
Absolutely.
Andre the Giant.
And so I had a bunch of those Saturday Night's Main Events on tape. My dad taped them for me. The Halloween episode, which you've probably all seen or heard about this, of Saturday Night's Main Event, where it's all of those classic 80s guys, Macho Man, Piper,
Ventura,
and they're all dressed up in these ridiculous costumes, bobbing for apples. And the stuff like totally holds up. I like the physicality of it. I knew it was fake very young. I figured that out, but I didn't care. To me, it was like a show, like a TV show, theater. It was just something I enjoyed watching. And the personalities, they had Roddy Piper. They went to Roddy Piper's house to trick or treat, and I just remember him. He did the one coconut, two coconut. And rest in peace, Roddy Piper. He was taking these bricks. They were tinfoil bricks, so they were candy bars. And then he took bowling balls and he put like a stick through it, and they were candy apples. And he took the candy apple bowling ball, he dropped it in the kid's bag, and the bag broke when all the candy came out. And I just remember Piper as a kid just going like, "I had one for you," and I got, look at these, it's a candy bar for you.
And that's what people hated
So
about
awesome.
Vince McMahon's WWF in the
so
80s.
good.
They turned it into a sketch show practically.
But I like that just as much as like Hogan and Bundy and the Cage.
I mean, the older fans, yeah.
Like they had the build-up where Bundy avalanched Hogan, and I guess that was Bundy's push at the time. He was going to be the top heel, and they had the blue cage, and so I guess WrestleMania 2 is like my first WrestleMania memory. That's going back. A lot of people, I guess our age don't go that far back. So it was that bug. It was just my dad and my uncle. They took me to a show in Brooklyn that somehow their like lodge or something hosted, and I guess it was an indie show.
Yeah, an indie.
It might have even been the weekend of WrestleMania. That was like the first indie show tied to WrestleMania.
That started early on,
and
apparently.
I forget. I have to ask my dad who was on the show. It might have been like Johnny Rods. I think they talk about that. They don't really remember things well either. They're like carnies in their own way. My uncle and my father, so they might not know. And so yeah, 85. I went to my first show. And it just became something I followed on and off from there.
But
yeah. Wow.
more on than me, for
I need to cut down on the
sure.
coffee, Eric. I'm sorry. I'm very excited.
But you said on and off, and you watch, you DVR every week, don't you now? The 3 hours of Raw and Fast Forward.
It takes up so much space on my DVR. I need to start deleting that. They need to cut that down, don't they?
And you give me updates here and there, like, they did this with Shane McMahon this week, and then they did this with Cesaro.
He
and
gets
I'm
the
like,
real-time text. He gets the text message, commentary or whatever.
Well, what's kept you, even to this day, checking it out? What is the appeal that makes you, all these years later, still want to give it a shot?